Well, good afternoon. Shalom, shalom, family. How are you all doing? Oh my goodness, there's so much going on, family. I'm telling you, every day it is something different. So we're going to get into that in a little bit, but hello to all of you, Sister Onyenmichi. How are you, Brother Darnell, Nikki, Thomas? How you doing, Sister Karen, Byron, our moderators? Shalom and thank you, thank you, thank you for everything that you do to support this ministry. Sister Vikia, how are you? Carmen, Wendell, Clifford, Charles, how you doing? Yabu, Michelle, Saw, who else we got? Marilyn, VTech, y'all's child. Okay. Who else we got? The Negro Unchained. Shalom to you as well. Brandon Higgins, y'all's son. Beauty with Brains. How you doing, Brother Calvin? Council's Girl, Tyrone, McKinley, Sonia, Malak, Georgetta, let's see, Adriana. Hope I got that right. Who else we got? Shaul, D-Mac, Heather, Berean, Lawrence, Laufey. All right, so welcome to all of our new and returning listeners. I pray that you are well and blessed. But I want to know this question right here. How are you all holding up in the midst of the daily breaking news alerts? Is this the new normal, family? Right now, the world is looking at Amalek at his best. He goes after the weak and the vulnerable, and he justifies his actions, and then he'll play the victim. The other nations are getting tired of it, though. I think they're beginning to push back, but they're afraid of the bully standing behind the bully, if you know what I mean, because they fear the backlash of the one that propped them up and then make excuses for their actions. Family, you all, the past 2 months, let's just say 3 months, we've had the crazy of the crazies. Things, the little things. It's like, okay, what is it now? Yeah, we just lost sound. I don't know what happened, family. I don't know. But think about who I was talking about when we lost sound. It's that kind of stuff. Last month, I had to buy 2 computers, a backup just in case. And lo and behold, this week, issues going on with those two. But look, I'm praising and praying and trusting. Yeah. So just think about who I was talking about when that happened. You all. I have to laugh. I have to laugh because it's like, all right, what is it today? Yeah, I am so thankful for our ministry team, our prayer warriors, the Zion's Wailing Women's Group. Look, they've been lifting me up, and I am so thankful because I cannot tell you. I don't even want to get into it. But Yah be praised, and he will get the glory. So where was I? Let's go back to what I was talking about. Now I think I need to re-upload the information, the slides that I had up here, because, yeah. Oh, family, family, family. I'm telling you, it's been interesting. It's been interesting. Let's just say that. But praises to the Most High, Yah. Like I was saying, with all of the craziness going on in the world, this is today's news. This is today. You see what's number one? You know what's coming next, right? I hope you know what's coming next. Are we on repeat? So, yeah. But yeah, all of this craziness is happening in the world. Threat of US civil unrest, global turmoil, really. Venezuela is reacting to violent political unrest. You all probably heard about what's going on in Britain. I'm just like, wow. Oh my word. Yes, yes, yes. We see that things are turned up, as they say. It's turned up. It goes on and on and on. And you're seeing reports like this more and more. Just look at the headlines. So we know what's behind it. We know what's coming. And now you're seeing reports like this, giving up on God. They're talking about the global decline of religion. Really? They're giving up on God because, of course, a depraved mind will say he is at fault for all of the world's problems. If there really was a God, and they will have 1,001 faults to lay at his feet, they would say these things wouldn't be happening. Never will it be the fault of sin, though. It's never because of sin. But isn't this the plan of the enemy? He wants the world to accuse the Most High and not look at what's behind it. Not look at what's behind it. He wants man to see the ways of Yah as a failure so that he can present himself as the God that create a perfect world or can create a perfect world. And so this new world that he wants to present is the world of do what thou will. Let it all hang out. Just do it. Be whatever you want to be. No one has a right to tell you what you can or cannot do with your body. And this is certainly the time to learn how to rest in the Most High. What's the worst thing that can happen to you, family? Let that be your guiding question. What's the worst thing that can happen to me? And then you lay it all at the Most High's feet. But you need to continue to speak peace over your family and command the day when you get up in the mornings. Things didn't get better for our people when Moses appeared before Pharaoh and told him what Yah said. No, Pharaoh started flexing, not knowing that even his hardened heart was by design. The hardened man was like a whimpering little boy by the time the Most High got finished with him. In the message on Sunday, I said the agents of darkness were creating the chaos, but I neglected to say that we can also see the Most High's hand in a lot of these things they are calling natural disasters. Sin was the cause of the flood, but who sent the rain? So keep looking up, family. Your redemption draweth nigh. And like I said, every day I have to get up just laughing, praising, spending even more time in prayer because we're living in the day of crazy. That's all I can say right now. I don't want to give the enemy any more props. So let's get into this. If you tuned in to the last session, we talked about the end game and why the enemy wants the people of the book to doubt the scriptures and the prophecies in this final hour. Is it just because, as they say, the Bible is filled with contradictions, or is it because they know the last day prophecies point to us? Now that we're waking up to who we are as a people, hey, it's time to do away with the book. It's no longer relevant. But they can't take what's written in your heart, can they? So it's time to wake up, Israel. We have to wake our people up. And when we say wake up, we have to remember why we were put to sleep in the first place, because there may be some who don't know why. The fact that we were kicked out of our land and scattered around the world wasn't happen chance. The fact that our enemies took control of our books, it wasn't accidental. Let's look at this from Isaiah 29, 9 through 12. Pause and wonder. Blind yourselves and be blind. They are drunk, but not with wine. They stagger, but not with intoxicating drink. The people are drunk, but not with wine. They stagger, but it's not because of intoxicating drink. Who is he talking about? The nation of Israel. We have been stumbling around for a very long time. And verse 10 is going to tell us why. For the Most High has poured out on you the spirit of deep sleep. That's why Israel is asleep. He poured out the spirit of deep sleep, especially on the prophets, it says, and the seers. He says, he's closed your eyes, namely the prophets, and he has covered your heads, namely the seers, so that they can't see. Just think about what I just read. The Most High did this. Those who were supposed to be the watchmen on the wall, the perceivers of hidden truth, the revelators, the teachers of truth, the ones who would stand in the gap for the nation, they especially were put to sleep. It says the whole vision has become to you like the words of a book that is sealed, which men deliver to one who is literate, saying, read this, please. And he says, I cannot, for it is sealed. Then the book is delivered to one who is illiterate, saying, read this, please. And he says, I am not literate. Now just think about those words. Those who could read couldn't read it because Yah sealed up the vision, as in the understanding and revelation of it. So what hope would there be for those who can't read? They won't stand a chance. They can't read. So you will not understand this vision if you don't know who he's talking to here. This prophecy. You won't really get the revelation of this unless you know that he's talking to the people he gave the oracles to. If they can't see and understand, how can we expect Gentiles to see and understand? This was the spiritual state of our nation, blindness. The majority of the leaders, and by extension the people, were engaging in false worship, empty rituals, idolatry, and not worshiping with a pure heart. So he put his people to sleep. I hope you are hearing this. He put us to sleep. Now let's look at why this happened and learn to ask the question when you read the scripture, why did this happen? And then ask who's being referenced, because a lot of people miss it there. Christians try to ascribe all of the good things to them. All of the good things? Oh, yeah, that's talking about them. If it has anything to do with bad things and curses, oh, that's talking about the ancient Israelites. That's not us. So let's go to the beginning of the chapter and look at verses 1 through 4. Woe to Ariel. Who's Ariel? Jerusalem. To Ariel, the city where David dwelt, add year to year. Let feasts come around, yet I will distress Ariel. There shall be heaviness and sorrow, and it shall be to me as Ariel. I will encamp against you all around. Who's fighting against her? The Most High. I will lay siege against you with a mound, and I will raise siege works against you. You shall be brought down. You shall speak out of the ground. Who's doing this? Not the enemy's family. He says, your speech shall be low out of the dust. Your voice shall be like a medium's out of the ground, and your speech shall whisper out of the dust. Are you hearing this? Ariel means lion of Yah, and in this passage is used symbolically to refer to the city of Jerusalem. This is what happened to us and our nation. Spiritually, we died. We were buried, and our voice can barely be heard. And he told us exactly what was going to happen. Let's look at verses 13 through 14. Therefore, says the Most High, inasmuch as these people draw near with their mouths and honor me with their lips, but have removed their hearts far from me, and their fear toward me is taught by the commandment of men. Therefore, behold, I will again do a marvelous work among this people, a marvelous work and a wonder. Now let's stop there. It sounds strange to say marvelous work because when that word is used, you automatically think it's something good. But here it actually means that something would happen that would cause great wonder, like this is extraordinary. Like when you say, man, that's unbelievable. I never thought that would happen. It was the royal beatdown that was meant to humble us and bring us down low. Did we deserve it? Absolutely. He says, for the wisdom of their wise men shall perish, and the understanding of their prudent men shall be hidden. This is like something that was unheard of. It's like, man, that can't happen. But it did. It most certainly did. But he didn't throw us away. Isaiah 44, 1 through 5. Listen to what he says. Yet hear now, O Jacob. So who is he talking to again? Christians automatically ascribe everything to them. He's telling us who he's talking to here. O Jacob, my servant, and Israel, whom I have chosen. These words are to you. Thus says the Most High, who made you and formed you from the womb. Who will help you? He's saying, I did this to you, but I'm going to help you. Fear not, O Jacob, my servant, and you, Yeshurun. Now, who in the world is that? Who is he talking about? Yeshurun, have you heard that name before? It's a name for Israel. So do you see how we transition from a name used for the city of Jerusalem to now a name used for Israel? And you, Yeshurun, whom I have chosen, for I will pour water on him who is thirsty and floods on the dry ground. I will pour my spirit on your descendants and my blessings on your offspring. Let's stop right there. What was destroyed in 70 AD? The city of Jerusalem and the people, Jacob, Israel, the people were cast out. So this prophecy is to the city and to the people. I will pour my spirit, listen, on your descendants. Did you catch that? On the descendants. The descendants. And my blessing on your offspring. What's going to happen to them? They will spring up among the grass like willows by the water courses. But listen to this. So we know what happened in 70 AD. We had the destruction of the city, the people were cast out. But listen to the meaning of what's being said here, because the name, you see Jeshurun, but Yeshurun, the root of that word, interestingly, means upright, just, or straight. So we went from being trodden down and rebellious, and now he's calling us a people who are upright and straight, just. So the same way he punished us and brought us down low, he will raise us up and justify us. Did we deserve that? No. Listen to what he says he will do. Again, he's going to pour water on him who is thirsty and floods on the dry ground. He's talking about the place and the people. Then I will pour my spirit on your descendants and my blessing on your offspring. Then he says they're going to spring up among the grass like willows by the water courses. And that, listen, one will say, I am the Most High's. Another will call himself by the name of Jacob. Another will write with his hand the Most High, as in I belong to the Most High, and name himself by the name of Israel. These people will spring up, these descendants, like grasses. He's going to pour, like grass, not grasses. He's going to pour out his spirit on the descendants and his blessing. What's happening to us, family? He didn't forget us. He did not forget us. So when did this happen? 70 AD. 70 AD. We have to think about that. Timing is important. Did it happen during the time of the writing of the Old Testament? No. When was this prophecy fulfilled? It began with the Greeks. We see those who wanted to be us and basically became us, started with the Greeks, and it was completed under the Romans. So what are we talking about? Daniel's vision. Daniel's vision, the fourth beast. So let's go on, because the Most High wasn't finished. He says, thus says the Most High, the King of Israel. Listen to how he identifies himself as he addresses us. He's the King, our King. Then he tells us, I'm Israel's Redeemer. Again, the church wants to insert itself here. What does it say? The King of Israel and his Redeemer. Whose Redeemer? Israel's Redeemer. And then he identifies himself. You see here, it says Lord of Hosts. But if you look at it in the Hebrew, and some would say Yahuwah Yabaoth, and there are others who pronounce just as Yahweh Sabaoth. Isaiah 13. He's the host of the armies of Israel. He leads into battle. He's also the king over the host of heaven, the one with supreme power over all things. So as you read this with understanding of who we are, knowing that we are the people, listen to what it says next. I am the first and I am the last. Beside me there is no God. And who can proclaim as I do? Then let him declare it and set it in order for me. Listen, since I appointed the ancient people, again, who is he talking about? I appointed the ancient people. There's no mistaking this. He's talking to his people. So now we have a hard time understanding how preachers twisted this and interpret it as a message to the church. No, he said, I appointed the ancient people. That couldn't be talking about the church. He's talking to Israel. And the things that are coming and shall come, let them show these to them. Listen to this message, Israel. Do not fear, nor be afraid. Have I not told you from that time and declared it? You are my witnesses. I keep beating this message in because I really need you to get this, family. We are his witnesses. We've been appointed for this time, to be the witnesses in the last days. We are his witnesses. He's saying to us, is there a God besides me? Indeed, there is no other rock. I know not one. So I hope you remember these words. Get it down in your spirit. He goes on to tell us to remember these. He says, remember these, O Jacob. And then he says, and Israel. For you are my servant. I have formed you. You are my servant. How can we miss that? How can preachers twist that up like they did? Now that we see, we really see, but before we could not see. We were asleep. He says, "Oh, Israel, listen, you will not be forgotten by me." Now you can stand on that one right there. He says, I won't forget you. As you watch the turmoil increase in this world, remember these words. Say it over and over again until you believe it. He will remember us. What else? He says, "O Israel, you will not be forgotten by me. I have blotted out like a thick cloud your transgressions, and like a cloud your sins. Return to me, for I have redeemed you." But folks will tell us you can only be redeemed, or if people were only redeemed in the New Testament. Here he's saying this is what he does for his people. Redemption, that's a part of the promise to us, for him to redeem us. Now, family, listen to this part. He's going to command the heavens to sing because he has done this. He says, "Shout, you lower parts of the earth. Break forth into singing, you mountains. O forest and every tree in it. For the Most High has redeemed Jacob and glorified himself in Israel." Family, this is Yah's endgame. Did you hear me? We talked about the enemy's endgame, but I just declared to you Yah's endgame. Don't forget this. This is his end game. He declared the end from the beginning. He has made known his desired end. Even when we were disobedient and rebellious, the testimonies that were passed down to us in what is called the New Testament is just that. a witness of how things came to pass. But the oracles in the Old Testament is our foundational truth. You can't have the end without the beginning. The two fit together. You can't say all we need is the New Testament and forget about the Old Testament. And that is exactly what a lot of religious leaders taught. They were telling people to stay out of the Old Testament. I wonder why. I wonder why. So, the good news, as it is called, was a continuation of a message that was given to our ancestors long ago. Africa received the gospel first. It amazes me how the oppressors try to hide that fact. So wherever you think our land is, the strip of land they're fighting over right now, whether it's in Uganda, Kenya, South Africa, guess what? It's on the continent. It's on the continent. They received it first because he said, I was sent to the lost sheep of the house of Israel. They received it first. All right. So let's look at some excerpts from this article from the Gospel Coalition, and it's called African Christianity Thrived Long Before White Men Arrived. So we're going to look at this information. This information was written by a pastor in Johannesburg, South Africa. And he says over 685 million people in Africa are associated with Christianity in some way. But amongst this broad acceptance, there is a murmuring that this religion of the colonists shouldn't have a place on the continent anymore, that Christianity isn't African. Now, most of us, we've heard the same thing when we think about this. We've heard this too, that Christianity is the white man's religion. So he goes on to say, he pastors a church in Johannesburg, and he says he hears people saying this periodically, that Christianity is the white man's religion and it has no place amongst true Africans. But he's saying this isn't true. This is false information. He's saying because Christianity was present in Africa 1,000 years before the first European Christian arrived on African shores. Let's pause here for a second because some folks will get triggered by the title Christian. We know the early believers did not call themselves Christians. But before we were enlightened, many of us identified by that name, one who is a believer in Messiah. So he's using that title in this article. But we're talking about Israelites who believed in Messiah and some Africans. So he's saying it was on the continent long before Europeans arrived. He says a whole millennia before any European nation docked their ships, Christianity had been flourishing in Africa. The gospel was already spreading in Africa by African heralds or African missionaries, evangelists, disciples, apostles, etc. It was already there. But this is a fact that you're not going to hear about. Now I want to look at this article. It's called Neglected Ethiopian History. And there's a lot of nuggets in this one. It's the life and martyrdom of St. Matthew. And this is from Dr. Abher from the Ethiopian Historical Society. So he says neglect of the most important piece of literature, and he names this Opus Magnum, recording therein the early history of Ethiopian kingship, government, and socio-religious practices at the turn of history itself, and answering the long contentious question, surely once and for all, the relation between ancient Egypt, lower Nubian Kush, and upper Ethiopia proper or Abyssinia in the ancient classical times, besides so many unanswered conundrums, is the greatest tragedy, not only for Ethiopia and its people, but for undermining impartial Ethiopian historical and academic research in general. He's basically talking about the information that they had, the documents to prove what happened there was rejected and ignored. Why? Well, I think we already know why. We surely we know by now. So the document or this article is speaking about a work that was originally written in the Hebrew language in the first century by Abdias, Bishop of Babylon, and it was translated into Greek by his disciple Eutropius. Then it was translated into Latin by Africanus in the late second or early third century. So the writer says this work was well known in European nations. They knew about this, but they chose to ignore it. And like I said, we know why. He says it was neglected and ignored. Why? Neglected and ignored. He said this was a work of such magnitude that it can hardly be comprehended on the one hand, or its importance overstated. For nothing, if anything, is spoken of this chronicle in any of the international literatures penned and overseen by such scholars and institutions, the consequence of which has impacted academia at large, and the continual barrage of unsubstantiated, uncritical repetitions and even prejudice of 5 or 6 centuries has dominated and shaped Ethiopian studies itself. Furthermore, it is so grave, it has defaced the very fabric of Ethiopian cultural heritage and their identity, the history of Ethiopia, and place in ancient, medieval, religious, and world history. So this information, again, was known to all of the European nations, but they chose to ignore it. They didn't want to know. So the argument is being made that the information contained in the document must be made known to the world so that the true history of Ethiopia can be told. It talks about how Ethiopia, also referred to as Abyssinia, is recorded in scripture. So why wouldn't share that information that they have? It says the book that Christians, or this book that Christians refer to as their book of instructions, the Bible, that information about Ethiopia, it's confirmed by the information they have. So listen to what it says here under Christianity. National reception of Christianity. Ethiopia had a national reception of Christianity. Besides these, it documents the acceptance of Christianity by not only the Ethiopian people, as was the case in the early Roman reception of Christianity, but by the crown and nation as a whole at the first century. So they accepted the truth of the gospel in the first century, it's saying. First century, family. Let's go on. It talks about how a lot of the relics of the religion of Christianity were in Ethiopia, and the observances of the Israelite people were practiced there as well. Listen to what it says about ecclesiastical laws and biblical books. Observance of the Sabbath day of worship. This was happening in Ethiopia. Use of the Apostles' Creed. It also attests to knowledge of, and it talks about the deuterocanonical records, histories of, or books of sacred scripture. It was there. The history of Judith, they had that book there. They had the primary monastic laws in the first century. This was already there in Egypt. It also talks about in Egypt how they erected, in Ethiopia, they erected the first cathedral church in the first century tradition of the naming of Christian temples and houses of worship. This was already happening in Ethiopia. But don't miss this part. It goes on to talk about how these things were written about and made known in every major language of Europe. They were printing this in all of the major languages. So in essence, there was no excuse for people not to know about this. So it was hidden. It was hidden. So this is an open rebuke. Why didn't the Western Europeans mention the historical data? It says for the earliest period of kingship or the very origins of the Ethiopian Judeo-Christian church. Why? Why? And that's the question. It says, while we may find a few and contemptuous references to the Acts of the Apostles, the church fathers, or writings of some of the mainly late travelers in an Ethiopian context, these are explained away or simply taken with disdain. The Europeans didn't want to even talk about it. Now listen to what it says here. It says the Apostle Matthew, there was writings from the Apostle Matthew narrated in the 7th book of the Apocryphal Acts of the Apostles as ascribed to Abdias. Nothing comes of it, they said. They said, we have proof that this was here. But they didn't even want to talk about it. Family, sometimes, you cover this information. It's like, man, this rabbit hole is so deep. It is so deep. They have proof that they had writings from the Apostle Matthew there. So they're saying they had more than enough evidence that Matthew was in Ethiopia. So we need to spend some time here, family, because the argument of some is that, and I'm just going to share some of the comments I've received regarding the New Testament. It's toilet paper. It's trash. It was written by the oppressor. I think you get the picture. The sentiment is that nothing in the New Testament is true. So there's no Messiah, no apostles, no death, burial, and resurrection. It was all made up by the Roman Catholic Church. Did the Ethiopians make this up? I get why you would think Europeans did, but why the Ethiopians? So let's put a pin in that and come back to this. This is from the Blue Letter Bible, their official blog. Let's see what it says about the ministry and death of Matthew. Matthew's missionary journey saw the conversion of many in Ethiopia and Egypt. Toward the end of his ministry, Matthew wrote his gospel in the Hebrew tongue to extend the good news of Messiah to his Israelite brothers. Later, James the Less would translate this gospel account into Greek. Matthew eventually suffered martyrdom in Ethiopia. Now, where did they get this information, family? Where did they get this information? How do they know what happened in Ethiopia? So obviously somebody had copies of those records. They knew what was happening there, but they chose not to make it public. Let's go on. Let's look at this article from Conciliar Post, and it's entitled "The Curious Case of Ethiopian Orthodoxy." Let's read some of this. It says the Ethiopian Orthodox Tewahedo Church, and I'm just going to call it the Ethiopian Church as we go on, is the third largest Christian denomination in the world, but most Western Christians know very little about their ancient roots, their miraculous success against Islam, or their peculiar traditions. This article will focus on the formative events of the Ethiopian Church. So it's talking about their history and customs. And it talks about they're tracing their history and their faith, some parts of it back to the Queen of Sheba in 1 Kings 10 and 2 Chronicles 9. And the Kebra Nagas gives her name as Queen Makeda. Ethiopians identify Sheba as the city of Saba, from which Queen Makeda ruled eastern Africa and southern Arabia. Now I want to drop down. The Ethiopian Church proudly celebrates the eunuch of Acts 8, listing his name as Barash and stating that he was an effective evangelist upon his return to Ethiopia. After Barash, some Christian traditions say that the apostle Nathaniel, also called Bartholomew, preached in Ethiopia. Ancient historians, including Eusebius of Caesarea and Socrates of Constantinople, agree that the apostle Matthew preached in Ethiopia and was martyred there. So where are they getting this information? Let's go on. The traditions of the Ethiopian Church, long before Americans invented Messianic Judaism, quote unquote Messianic Judaism, Ethiopian Orthodoxy wove Israelite traditions into their faith far more intensively than any other branch of the Christians. They baptize infant boys at 40 days and girls at 80 days, according to the purification schedule in Leviticus 12 and Luke 2. They observe Israelite dietary laws, and they regard Saturday as a Sabbath day of rest, in addition to Sunday as the Lord's Day. It says the Ethiopian liturgy revolves around the Ark of the Covenant. Every church contains a tablet, a replica of the Ark. It says the official list of Holy Scriptures varies slightly among different Christian traditions, but the Ethiopian Church has the widest canon of all. Their 81 books include 45 in the Old Testament and 36 in the New. The Ethiopian Church is the only pre-Reformation branch of Christianity which does not recognize, they don't recognize Maccabees 1 and 2. Instead, they have their own books under a similar title, Maccabean. It says the most famous books of their Old Testament are Enoch and Jubilees, both of which have been translated into English. There are 9 additional New Testament books. Most consist of church rules and orders. Their most intriguing New Testament books to outsiders might be the letter written by Peter to Clement of Rome, simply titled Clement. and the Book of the Covenant. Family, we have to ask, how is it that they have this information? Did they make all of that up? I mean, that's the question we have to ask. Let's go on. We have this information here from the Smithsonian. Church unearthed in Ethiopia rewrites the history of Christianity in Africa. Archaeologists now can more closely date when the religion spread to the Aksumite Empire. So it says, in the dusty highlands of northern Ethiopia, a team of archaeologists recently uncovered the oldest known Christian church in sub-Saharan Africa. Interesting, right? Interesting, right? And it's dated to the 1st century. The 1st century. I mean, I just need us to think about this. It's dated to the 1st century. Through radiocarbon dating artifacts uncovered at the church, the researchers concluded that the structure was built in 4th century AD, about the same time when Roman Emperor Constantine I legalized Christianity in 313 CE and then converted on his deathbed. Interesting information. But Ethiopia is telling you they had the books, they had the customs, they had the letters, some of the letters written by the apostles in the 1st century. So we need to ask these questions. Did they all make it up? Now let's go back to the article, Neglected Ethiopian History. It says, we see again and again that one scholar follows another in their partiality, and unfortunately, their successful attempts to debase Ethiopian history wherever possible. Why? Why? Why are they rejecting their texts? Their historical evidence is what they want to know. They're saying this is deeply detrimental. It says, and although all reject our text, the best effort to analyze it was, or the best, this man named Professor August Dillman, he made the best effort to analyze it. And it says, he in turn is only found to follow Goochman, who himself sourced Dillman's redacted King's List for his analysis. So even though they had the information, they didn't use all of it. They only used bits and pieces of it. Why? Concerning St. Matthew and Ethiopia. So Goochman, this man we were just talking about, he says he made an attempt to tackle this issue, and it says he may be somewhat commended. So he tried, is basically what they're saying. So it says he mentions the account, but it differs entirely from the so-called apocryphal Acts of the Apostles, translated from Arabic and extant, or something that is still, you still have the evidence of it. It's still in existence. It says, which was introduced into the country. However, it was a later date in the 6th century that this guy, Conti Rossini, among the few Ethiopian scholars somewhat engaging the issue, follows Dillman, who nonetheless omits half of the royal names of the text, talking about all the kings who were in Egypt. They omitted most of the information. Why? But listen, these writers that they're listing, these European writers, they didn't deny that the Ethiopians had the records. They only quoted or sourced from some of them. They never denied that they had the information. That's the point we need to look at. So here is a fragment of the writing from the book of St. Matthew, dated between 200 and 300 AD. It's written in Greek, and the pages of the codex are written on both sides. The text is from chapter 1, verses 1 through 9, 12, 14 through 20. The pages are numbered at the top with a Greek number 1 and page 2. And this is from Egypt. Should we assume that the Egyptians lied too? How do we reconcile all of this information if none of it happened and it was all made up? That's the question for us. So let's look at these excerpts from this Cambridge Journal article. The Bible in Ethiopic. Let's look at some of this. It says the translation of the Holy Scriptures into the Ge'ez language, generally classified as a member of the southern branch of the family of ancient Semitic languages, was completed in early Christian times, around the middle of the 4th century. The Ge'ez canon includes the Hebrew Bible, the Christian Old Testament, late Second Temple, 538 BC through 70 AD. They also had Israelite literature known as Apocrypha and Pseudepigraphia, and Christian New Testament. The Ge'ez language, known among Western scholars as Ethiopic, thus became one of the first 7 languages of the ancient world to receive the Holy Scriptures. Listen, none of the European languages shares such a high distinction, with the exception of Greek and Latin. The translation of the Holy Scriptures was of paramount importance in Ethiopian history. It gave rise to an extensive body of ancient Ethiopic literature and the evolution of a distinct Ethiopian culture. Family. Let's keep going. Any glance at scholarly publications of the last 500 years will reveal the high position of Ge'ez, or the high position Ge'ez holds among ancient languages as an important repository and nurturer of many ancient literary works. The large body of venerated works, hagiographies, chronicles, homilies, calendaric and theological treatises, offers insight into the history of early Christianity. To cite 2 examples, they talk about how in the late 17th century they discovered the liturgical usage of the language, or this man named Dominican. He found that the language, he came across an article, and it says this article was the Apostolic Church Order of Hippolytus of Rome, the writing that he found. That was already there. Likewise, in his work on Ethiopian astronomy and calendars, the noted historian of mathematics, Otto Neugebauer, showed that the Judeo-Hellenistic calendar that was the basis of the early Christian calendar is preserved only in the Ethiopic work. All of this was already in Ethiopia. It says there is a wellspring of Ethiopic works connected to early Israelite literature and to the history of Israelite communities where? In Ethiopia and southern Arabia. This was already there. So, family, we have a question to answer. Both things can't be true. The Ethiopians are saying they have a copy of the writings from the Old Testament. And initially, the first 4 books of the New Testament. And I'm not saying folks didn't tamper with things, but the Old Testament passed through their hands as well. If they had the letters from the New Testament long before the Europeans got their hands on it, where did those letters come from? Did the Ethiopians make them up? Or did it come from the Israelites who were running out of our land because they were being chased by the Romans? And I'm still asking this question. If those things in the New Testament did not happen, where is the temple? And what happened to the Messiah who was supposed to come and be cut off before the city and the temple was destroyed, according to the book of Daniel? I mean, we have to ask these questions because we have folks among us, our people, who are saying, no, it's all made up. I'm not reading anything from the New Testament. It's not true. Our oppressors wrote it. So let's see what you all are saying. What are your thoughts about it? What are your thoughts? Because I mean, I'm getting comments from different directions, folks with different beliefs. And I'm just saying, did the Ethiopians make all of this up too? What are your thoughts here? Was it all fake? That's the question, because this is what some folks want us to believe. So what are your thoughts? Made up, true, false, what? What are your thoughts? So, Breaking Chain Z, the Ethiopian Bible contains the apocryphal books and gives credence to things the Catholic Church rejects, like the Book of Enoch. Shaya, if we were looking at all of this like a court case, all of this is beyond a reasonable doubt. There's no way this could all be made up. Byron says exactly. Let's see. Karen is referring to going to the Most High in prayer so that he can show you the truth, so that we'll know one way or another. Let's see. Brother Charles says Ethiopia just keeps popping up regarding the land, the children of Jacob, and the kingdom established by these children of the covenant. Talmida, an Ethiopian person, told me once that the Germans went over there and wanted to learn Ge'ez and now have a degree program for learning the language. They're studying it. Interesting. Interesting. Sister Diana talking about the Edomites and the Gentiles. Uchia, can't believe the Smithsonian, they stole all of our artifacts. Yeah, but where'd they get it from? If they stole it, where did the artifacts come from? I mean, that's the question. Where did they get it from? They had to have something to steal. What else? And yes, I covered in the last session that they came in and Christianized them. We're talking about hundreds of years later. Hundreds of years later. I'm mainly looking at what happened in the 1st century. So that these are questions we need to know. Yobop, it doesn't matter if they mess with the word, the truth is still in the works. Okay. Sonia says, our ancestors escaped to their lands after Jerusalem. News from Yah, Jeremiah had a fake Ark of the Covenant sent to Ethiopia, but the Ark went to Anathoth, the modern day Jerusalem, from Telluride, the real Jerusalem. Okay, I can't verify that one way or another. Let's see. Thank you, Sister Diana. Let's see. I just have to. Why I can get why the Europeans would make it up. And no, I can't say that either, because even if the Europeans made it all up, why would they leave the prophecies in there that point to us? It does not point to them. That's not making sense either. Why make up a story and then you point to a different group of people? That's not making sense to me either. So, Berean scholar, how are you doing? It says, no, Ge'ez and ancient Hebrew share some similarities, but they are not directly related. Both are part of the Afro-Asiatic language family, specifically within the Semitic branch. And you all, Brother Berean, put your link in there as well so they can see some of the information you have on your channel. Let's see. So yeah, I don't know that I buy it that the Europeans made everything up. I think they twisted it. I believe they tried to insert themselves with the replacement theology. They added a lot of lies, like the curse of Ham lie, etc., etc. But those prophecies do not point to them. It's not talking about them. So praying for an Elisha says, well, one thing we know for sure is Ethiopia is referenced in the Bible, and these Europeans are too. But as lying heathens. You got me on that one. Give me a minute. Oh, y'all are too much. Okay. Jay says, if the New Testament is fake, we know nothing. Oh my goodness. McKinley, I'm going with the whole Hebrew book of scriptures, aka Holy Bible. Okay. Rita says, I don't believe it was fake. I believe bad actors got hold of the documents and tampered with them. Let's see. Sandaria says, I have a copy of the Ethiopian book. It is beautiful, all 92 books. Okay. And let's see. The whole truth, so help me out. I believe the entire Bible is the inspired word of Yah. Nothing is done without the Most High's authorization and approval, good or bad. Brother Harold says the church lies. Oh my goodness. Bryant says he believes, I feel this is true. It makes you think where our true land is. Yeah, well, family, like I say, I am getting comments from both sides. Yes, Yobop, that's a question as well. You know, how can you make determinations if you don't know the language? That is definitely something to consider. A Hebrew in marketing says the heathen has just given us their version of history and events concerning this too. They fault because they have to keep revising as they know it. Yeah, I know. Yeah, I agree. They've given us their version of history. Um, but what I am wanting us to answer, the Ethiopians are presenting their version, saying that they have documents from the first century. They're showing that they have letters that were written by the Apostle Matthew. So, how then are some saying the apostles didn't exist? Are we saying the Ethiopians made all of that up? That's the question, because there's a lot riding on that. So Neo Beta Alpha 22, no way all that can be made up. Some was added, yes, but we can see what was added. All right. Roderick, everywhere Europeans went, they corrupt things. Made it all about them. Made it all about them. Watchful of my salvation, folks discredit the new covenant because they don't understand Paul's teaching. Oh, we look, that's a different study. Watchful of my salvation. We can't even get into that. We will get there. We will get there. So, a different perspective. Lily Michelle, my reasoning is, if it's all made up, how is it then that we have a nation of Israel that is based on a made up history? And why are they waiting on made up prophecies to be fulfilled? Karen, I read a few years ago the Smithsonian destroyed Nephilim bones to discredit the Bible, and we don't doubt that. We don't doubt that. Great. Yes. Canvas, Zephaniah, from the boundaries of the rivers of Ethiopia will I received my dispersed ones. Yeah. So, yeah, family, this is really important. And the reason I wanted to present this, not just from a biblical, but historical perspective, is because you're going to hear comments like these, and folks are in your face with some of this. You need to know how to respond, not react. Know how you will respond. So take some of this information. I normally have folks asking me, can you share the links? Almost every time I'm sharing resources with you, I will include the links right at the bottom of the slide so that you can see where I got that information, because I want you to go back and read that information. The point is, you need to know how to stand against these things that people are saying. Have a response. Don't just wait or wait for us, to present this information. Look at what we're presenting, and then you take it out there and you go study as well, so that you know how to stand. You have to know what you're going to stand for, or you will fall for anything. So Sharon says, I asked my Ethiopian co-worker about the written word, and did his people have it? He smiled and said, we must talk. A Hebrew in marketing is like as if we were to go to at Gates of Hulda's house and just No, I don't want you to pretend to be me. I want you to get this stuff for yourself. Y'all, oh family, y'all something else tonight. I want you to get it for yourself. Get it for yourself. You're welcome, Brother Berean Scholar. You all are something else. Oh, my word. Sonia, that's a good point right there. That's a good point. Ethiopia is a part of Psalm 83, but are we talking about all of them? Because you also have other verses of scripture talking about them as well. So I don't believe all of them were, but some of them, and a lot of our people ran into those places. So, Brother Don P., how are you doing? All right, let's see. Grafted tree, that's what I was just commenting on. I'm not saying that they all were. No, no. All right, let's go. I'm just trying to pick up some of these comments referring to my question here. Focused on Truth is saying, I think it will all be understood upon the unveiling of Messiah. I agree with you, but I still say you need to know how to respond because these people are in your face and they're causing some to doubt. So you need to know, and in case someone asks you, where do you stand on this? You need to know how to defend your position. Let's see. All right. Brother Don says they took out the things that would make you think and tells the truth on them. Remember, they gave us the slave Bible. They absolutely did. Yes, they did. Cut it up. It's like, we only want you to know this part. And that's what the Ethiopians are upset about. It's like you will only talk about certain segments of our history. You've ignored the trove of evidence we have, proving these things. So let's see. Yeah, the whole truth, so help me. Yeah, I doubt Deuteronomy would have ever made it into the Bible if they were in control. Too much information in the Bible regarding the wickedness of the heathens. Absolutely. So that's what I'm saying. If they had the opportunity to change everything, why wouldn't they cut out those parts about the woolly hair, the skin turning white? Why wouldn't they cut all of that out? Praying for an Elisha. Why would the Ethiopians lie? It doesn't gain them anything. They're not saying they're the people. Yes, that's the question. So, yes, I agree. So good comments. Just something to make you think, family. Again, we need to know how to stand on what we believe. We need to have some nuggets, that we can defend. So family, I really appreciate you all joining me for this. If you have not hit the like button, please hit the like button. Family, we are dealing with some strange happenings here, but we're going to get through this. If you subscribe to the channel, check to make sure you're still subscribed. Folks are saying, man, they unscribed me again. Look, you know who we're dealing with, right? You saw what happened at the beginning of the live when I started talking about them folks. Look, when I say strange beyond belief, those types of things. So hit the like, please, and check to make sure you are still subscribed, particularly if you are not getting notifications. But I am so appreciative of our ministry team and our prayer groups, those folks who are helping in the background so that things can continue. Because I'm just telling you, yeah, strange happenings. And I also wanted to thank those who support the ministry, those who donate, even those who are praying, sending encouraging words, etc. Those who are sharing the information, much appreciated. Thank you to those anonymous donors who send funds in, to support the ministry. Thank you, thank you, thank you. All praises to the Most High Yah for you. Sometimes I forget to say that, but it's much appreciated. Thank you, thank you, thank you. All right, so we are going to wrap this up. We have some more to cover. Oh man, there's some parts of it I'm just kind of reluctant to get into. It's like, oh, I really don't want to do this. Can I just skip this part? So yeah. We have to talk about some things. We can't fear the truth. We have to be like the Bereans. I kind of know how uh, some of the European Christians feel, even how I felt in the beginning when I came into this awakening. It was like, it felt like a death. I'm just going to be honest. Like, there's, I had to let go of a lot of things that it's like, I, I can see that this is wrong. And I'm going to take it back to what I shared with you in the beginning. He put us to sleep. He put us to sleep, family. But now that our eyes are opening and we can see the truth of this information, we can't fear it either. We can't fear it. We have to walk in the light as He is in the light. And the light is always going to uncover and expose the truth. We need to walk in truth. We need His truth hidden in our hearts. So, yeah, hang in there with me, family. Roderick says it's foundational. It's foundation shaking truth. Yes. Yeah. Charles West, these people had us all jacked up. Like, I'm just trying to tell you, for real. I mean, They really did. They really did. So much love to all of you, family. Don't get caught up on everything going on in this world right now. We know that these things will have to happen. The shaking up, the convergence of two kingdoms, it's going to create a shaking. We already know that. It's going to create a shaking. But like I said, what did Pharaoh look like when we left the land? A whimpering little boy. He was all big and bad in the beginning. But when it was all said and done, the Most High was like, you will bow. You will acknowledge. And that's what's going to happen to Babylon. We know that. We know that. We know it's coming. So, family, we're going to wrap up there. Thanks for joining me again. If you did not hit the like, please go ahead and do that and share. And again, check to make sure that you are still subscribed. Join me next time, family.